Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is a Legacy School Literacy lesson for Week 7, Year 6. So for this lesson, all you'll need is your Checkpoint 1 textbook opened up to page 25. So we are going to be starting our second unit. It's about autobiographies. We learned a little bit about autobiographies last year, if you remember. We're just going to take a little bit more of an in-depth look at autobiographies this year. All right, so let's start off by asking, what is a biography? A biography is a text written about someone's life. And an autobiography is when a person themselves write about their own lives. All right, so you're writing your own life story. And that's the difference between the two. If it's a biography, somebody has written about your life. But if it's an autobiography, you have written about your own life. All right? So before we get started, who are your favorite writers? I just want to get you guys thinking. It could be Roald Dahl. It could be J.K. Rowling. Lots of other, Michael Morpurgo. You guys have been reading a lot of authors this year. And can you think of some facts about these writers? All right, I'll just give you a second. You could be thinking about things like where they were born, where they went to school, what they studied, where they traveled, titles of their books, if they have any prizes, when they were born or when they died, or what they are doing right now if they're still alive. And have you ever looked up any of these authors on the internet, like on Google or Wikipedia? All right. You'll probably find information written about them, biographical information. So we're going to look at autobiographical information and how autobiographies are written. All right? One of the autobiographies you guys read last year, if you remember, was a Roald Dahl book called Boy. Right? What kind of interesting information did you learn from that book? Think about it for a second. Remember he talked about how much he hated the school and how the teachers were beating children and how bad it was there? All right. So in this unit, we're going to be reading more autobiographies like that. So first of all, let's look at the definition of autobiography again. An autobiography is a text that is written to inform the reader about a real person's life. The author of the text is the person featured in the autobiography, like we just said. All right, these are some of the characteristics of autobiographies. The author is the person featured in the autobiography. We already said that. It is written in the first person, so we use pronouns like I, me, my, even we. It shares important events and details in the person's life, and all the events must be true. Of course, in some cases, the author may exaggerate or just embellish or add little details to make the story seem more exciting. And I think we do this in our everyday life when we tell a story to our friends. We always add a little kick, a little extra information that might not necessarily be true, but it makes the story a lot more interesting. All right. Why do authors write autobiographies? Authors write autobiographies to inform the reader about their actual life, and they want to share the important events that shaped who they are. So it's very important for us to understand who they are as a writer by reading about the events that occurred in their life. All right, these are some examples of autobiographies. Of course, Boy, the Tales of Childhood by Roald Dahl, and we read a few extracts from that book last year. Red Scarf Girl by Gigi Lang, or Gili Jiang, 26 Fairmont Avenue, and Bill Pete, an autobiography. All right, so now that we've done a quick review, let's go ahead and open up our books to page 25, and that is your Checkpoint 1 workbook, a textbook. I'm going to be reading the introduction to the chapter, to the unit. And then in our next lesson, we'll actually be reading an autobiography or an excerpt of an autobiography and answering a few questions. All right, reading. All of us will have special memories of things that we experienced when we were younger. They may have been personal to us, or they may be things we shared with friends or families. Here are two memories of growing up in the city of Liverpool in England. The first was written by English soccer captain Steven Gerrard. And in it, he tells us about how he behaved when he was at primary school in the 1980s. Note that Merseyside is the name given for the area around the city of Liverpool. Ironside is the name of the area where Steven Gerrard lived in the city, and Bluebell is the nearby park. The second is by Helen Forrester, who grew up in a poor area of the same city nearly 60 years earlier. In the extract, she describes her attempts to get a job in a sweet shop with the help of her mother, who, despite having no money, believed that her daughter was better than her financial position suggested. Read both passages carefully and answer the questions that follow. All right, so this is an introduction to two autobiographies. A lot of you guys in the class probably know who Steven Gerrard is. He's a pretty well-known football player. So go ahead and open up the second video so we can read through the passage and answer a few questions.